Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Healthy Living segment with Denise Stegall. Hello, Denise.
Hey Jean, how you doing today?
I am good. Good, good, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Life is good.
Denise is our longevity specialist, and this month we're talking about the importance of self-care and reaching your personal goals. So, Denise, tell us about that. Why does it make a difference?
So it is so important that we look at self-care from a different perspective because self-care can truly be the change that we need to help us reach our personal goals. And of course, we've got personal goals, we've got professional goals, but today I'd like to really focus more on those personal goals. And if you think of it like a building, like when you're building a skyscraper or even just building a house, you need to have a strong foundation. When we built our house, when they put the footings in, the house looked huge because the footings needed to be a certain way to be able to hold the house, for it to be able to stand tall and not fall over. And so essentially achieving your personal goals kind of requires that same type of foundation. And I think of that foundation as self-care.
Hmm.
So that being said, what does that actually mean? Um, that foundation is simple. It's things that we talk about all the time. Prioritizing your sleep, nourishing your body with whole foods that actually, support your body. And then doing activities that actually recharge our body, mind, and spirit. And these are things that helps us to really perform at our best when we're looking at personal goals, whether it's a weight loss goal or maybe you want to run a half a marathon or a marathon. Like those are the type of personal goals that that I'm really thinking about. And it also helps us when it gets tough because whatever the personal goal that you're reaching, maybe something that I started recently, or started back on recently, is a program that I started a couple of years ago that I never got to finish. Well, I have a good foundation now, and truly, when I first started, I don't think that I did. Didn't have enough of that foundation. So now I can start that program again, and when things get tough, when it gets difficult, I actually have a greater sense of clarity why I'm doing it, why it's important, and resilience. So now that I can see this in a different light, because I am taking much better care of myself, specifically when it comes to sleep, than when I initially started the.
That makes sense because I didn't really think about it, but it does make sense because when I started, after this hip surgery event, and I'm week 7, and what I'm doing now in my mind, it is actually that foundation thought process. But I didn't even consider that because I needed something to build on so that I can do other things when it's time to just, oh, I'd like to go for a hike and not have to go, well, can't go for a hike because I need to recondition. So that is really very true.
Yes. And like in your situation, you had something happened that you had to recreate this foundation. But for so many people, there's no event that has,
Mhm.
that causes them to go, oh, I need to do this. Um, except at some point, burnout. That's usually when somebody goes, you know what, I need to reestablish, kind of, whether it's reestablishing boundaries or reestablishing what that self-care means to them. That's usually when most people go, you know what, I need to make changes. And it really is self-care, our lack of self-care leads to burnout personally, professionally, in relationships, and completely can derail any progress you make
Mm.
in those in the different strides to get where you want to go.
So, what are some of the tips that you have for creating that foundation or creating that or recognize? Well, first of all, let me ask the question differently. So, what are some of the areas where you recognize that you really do need to have a better self-care process? And then, what are the tips for creating that foundation?
Sure. One of the things that I when I'm working with people that we notice, and they eventually notice as we're talking, as we're working together, it's that they're constantly pushing, 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 and not actually taking that time to rest, recharge, recuperate. And that takes a toll mentally and physically. And again, that's kind of where motivation seems to wane, and our desire for reaching those goals really can wane and kind of leave us in a place where we're kind of going, now what? So when you realize that you're always pushing, constantly going, and I'm an overachiever in lots of things. Overachiever, that's my mother's word. If I want to do something, I go 110%. Well, some days going 110% is fine, but doing it 110% every day, every week, every month, there is, body breaks down emotionally, and mentally. There's just not enough capacity. So when you feel exhausted, that is really a time, hopefully before you get exhausted, but when you get to that point, that's a time to step back and go, ooh, you know what? I really need to make some change. In the interim, for people who are going, oh yeah, I do tend to, burn the candle at both ends. This is a time right now to recognize that and to start prioritizing your sleep, your relaxation. Sleep and relaxation don't necessarily mean the same thing. And so for me, that's number one. Once you notice that, it's what is, then looking at your schedule. Why are you pushing so hard? Is there a deadline? Is it a set deadline, or is it something you can, slowly move? Obviously with goals, we want them to be timely, but we also have control of the timeline, right?
Realistic.
Absolutely. I think with sustaining or creating a pace. So once you realize that, that you're pushing too much, or you're doing that 110%, it's really important to step back and really figure out what is a sustainable pace to reach that. Again, this works with that timely, reasonable time frame to accomplish a goal. And sometimes, honestly, you just need to take a break. Like I did with this course, it was intense. I had just finished a different course, and I just could not get my brain really around it. And so that was important. Sometimes you do just need to take a break, whether it's 15 minutes, a week, in my case, a couple of years. I knew it was something that I would get back to, but it also, this is really important, it wasn't a priority. And so that's another piece of this self-care, is what are the things that are actually a priority in reaching those goals? Because sometimes we set a goal, we're like, it's a laudable goal. But if it's really not that important, urgent, then it's okay to step back. So again, I think the self-care piece that I think is really important is slowing down, getting your rest, and really focusing on what it is that you want to accomplish, why, and then kind of come up with a time frame.
I like that. So some of the points that you've mentioned that for me, I don't know that self-care is such an overused word or term, right? And so self-care can be, well, you haven't mentioned one thing I expected you to mention that you always mention is eat real foods.
Absolutely.
But that is part of the self-care that should be obvious without having to identify or define. But some of the things that you mentioned aren't necessarily things that I would have put into a self-care category, but they're really important. And you had said, just as a to circle it back, or for everybody, you had said sleep and the importance of sleep. And you've talked about that in the past with circadian rhythm as well. So you said sleep and your relaxation. That's never in a self-care topic, how important that is. and managing your schedule management, and looking at your deadlines and prioritizing your goals and your activities, and making sure that they're realistic and sustainable. Zero to hero every day doesn't work.
Absolutely. And you make a point, you're a hero of your own story, right? In your own life.
Yeah.
So, but the hero, you know what, the hero sometimes takes breaks too. He needs to eat, he needs to sleep, or she needs to eat, she needs to sleep. And if you're watching, a heroic TV program, guess what? What happens between like episodes? They relax, or they take their breaks. I don't know. I've got superheroes in my head all of a sudden.
Well, thanks, Denise. These are super great tips, but also easy to wrap your head around and easy to implement. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, Denise.
Hey, Jean. It's a beautiful day.
Hey, it is. As we dive deeper into this month's topic, we're still talking about the importance of self-care and reaching your personal goals. But also, you're going to take it a step deeper and talk about setting and achieving those personal goals.
Yes, we all have goals that we want to reach. And self-care is such a big piece of that, as we talked about in our last segment. But I also think, and we touched on this like very, very quickly, about having a plan. I love to use this concept that I came up with a couple of years ago called the 3 Ps: plan, prioritize, and prepare. And it's so important because it really is a 3-step system. And what happens more often than not, people say, they set a goal, this is the goal that I want to achieve, but they don't write it down. This is in their head, or they say it out loud, but they don't write it down, and they don't have a lot of, like, there's not a lot of meat behind it. It's, I have this goal. How are you going to reach it? What are you going to do in order to reach it? What are you going to do when you come up with, obstacles? So the planning phase of reaching personal goals, and it doesn't have to be, big, elaborate plan, but there has to be some steps. There has to be some thought behind it. So number 1, what is your plan, or what is your goal? What do you want? Why do you want it? And then I think it's really important to kind of write down a few actionable steps. I want to lose 20 pounds. What's the first thing you need to do? You need to go to the supermarket and, buy healthy, nutritious whole foods. I need to go through my pantry.
I have to revise this one for a second. The first thing that you need to do is to call Denise.
Yes. First thing you do is call Denise. I love it. Thanks, Steve.
And then you go grocery shopping.
And then we go grocery shopping. We could do that together. We could do that online. But again, it's so important to have these ideas, these actionable steps, because without them, we're just kind of going. It's like, if you don't have a plan, kind of like if you have a car and you have a map, that's great. But if you don't know where you're going, doesn't matter. The plan is what makes the map important. So again, with the plan, whatever the plan is, whatever those steps are, and they'll be different for each goal you're trying to set. Additionally, with this, and this piece is why I think this is really important, is to set this plan, is nothing is perfect in this world, right? You're going to come up against some kind of obstacle. If it's a weight loss goal, there's going to be a wedding or a party or whatever. And you have to, manage that. So what do you do? Do you just show up at the party and go, well, shoot, there's all this stuff that none of it, it's all fried and it really doesn't fit with what I'm trying to do with my goals. If you had a plan, if you thought about it ahead of time, you wouldn't be uncomfortable. You would go into that event thinking, I got this. Maybe I had an apple before, so I've got, full, I've got fiber and all those yummy things that, in my tummy. And so the fried food's not going to knock my socks off like it might if I was starving. So obstacles, understanding what they may be, and just identifying, okay, so this could be a roadblock, this could be an obstacle. What are we going to do? What's the proactive plan to overcome that, sidestep it, whatever it may be? And that actually increases, one, your adaptability. We have to be adaptable in this world. We don't want to be so rigid, which is why I do not believe in diets, because they're so rigid and restrictive that there's no adaptability there. If you're following a, completely, say, vegan diet, and for whatever reason, if you love it or because somebody told you should, and then you go to a steakhouse, it's kind of hard, yes, you can find stuff at the steakhouse to eat, but you're not going to really enjoy that situation. If it's something that you're just
but if you had prepared, if you had set your head in the right spot and you had prepared beforehand and know that wasn't, you're going to that place to meet with people, not to have the dining experience of your life, your head's in the right place.
Exactly. And that's where the prioritizing piece comes in. Thank you. Exactly. It's not always about, and I know we talk about food and weight loss and stuff a lot, and longevity. It's what I talk about. It's what I know. But prioritizing in this manner, like if you're going to the steakhouse, exactly. It's about the connection. It's about the people. It's about the experience. Yes, we want to enjoy the foods that we eat, but it doesn't have to be like your, have all be all. Each meal isn't your last meal, right? And if you're going to a restaurant that doesn't quite fit your goal, eat beforehand. You can go to just about any restaurant and get a salad. There's something on the menu you can find. So you're not sitting there the only person not eating, right? So prioritizing is so important because it actually helps us focus on those high impact things. And so again, 9 days out of 10, this is what you're doing. The one day we're going to go to that restaurant, So again, those high
and you don't have that. Yeah, you don't have that thought of, well, there's nothing here for me, so I have to.
Exactly.
Instead, you're saying, well, I'm glad I prepared beforehand because it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't matter in that respect. So when we're prioritizing, we can actually determine which steps are the most important to us. And they really do have to align with our values and our priorities. Obviously, that's something that, when you're coming up with when you have a goal, it has to align with who you are. For me, I know my limitations. A goal for me would not be, swimming, an Ironman. Okay, that would not be it. I could do the run part, I could do the bike part. I'm not getting into ocean with sharks. Sorry, I've seen this not happening. So again, that would not be a goal for me. So it does have to align with who you are and what your priorities
If we had more time, I'd love to play around with that one a little bit.
Well, that'll be another conversation.
Never mind. The ocean part.
And again, this is something, this is long term. When, I think it's so important to remember that when we're prioritizing our personal goals, this is something that, is long term. It's not one of these things you don't want to have to check the box. Oh, I did that and you're done. most personal goals are things that we reach and then we grow on, we build on. And I think that's an important part of when we prioritize things. Again, it keeps us motivated, it keeps us committed. And again, when it comes to managing your calendar, I love calendar management. When you're prioritized, your events are prioritized or your tasks are prioritized, you're not stressed out because you plot them on your calendar. I love to plot things on the calendar. And you're not overwhelmed because it's there. The task, and maybe you're doing a task a day, maybe you're doing a task a month, or a week. Once it's on the calendar, you've prioritized it. You've prioritized it in your day. You've prioritized it in your heart and in your mind. So
and it's not a surprise.
Exactly. And it's not, oh shoot, how am I going to fit that in? And so the last step of this is preparing. And people always say to me, well, shouldn't you be doing that before? No, you have to have the plan. What is the plan? What is it that you want? Then you need to kind of prioritize, okay, this is more important than this. But then the preparation piece, this is really important. And people forget this all the time. Do you have the necessary skills and knowledge to reach that goal? Do you need to take a class? Do you need some additional education? Do you need a trainer? Do you need to work with a coach? What type of skills do you have, and who do you need, or what do you need help on to help build onto that? Because without that, all the planning and prioritizing in the world goes out the window if you're not prepared to do it, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally. The other piece, two other pieces of the preparation, and I think this part is really important, is building that supportive environment. And this is, again, where, we talk about connection quite a bit throughout our conversations. And this is where the connection can really help. Whether that supportive environment is your best friend, your spouse, joining like a track team or a running team or a pickleball team, whatever it may be. Surrounding yourself with people who are going to encourage you and support you is so important. We do it with our professional lives. We seek mentors, we have accountability partners in our businesses. Why can't we do that with our personal goals? We absolutely can. And that to me is such a big piece of self-care, because you're connecting to people. You're looking for support, and that helps you mentally and emotionally. And sometimes when it comes to self-care, that's what we need. We need that support. We need someone to say, be our cheerleader and be like, yes, you can do this. Yeah, that's self-care. Yeah, having that supportive environment.
I think that last point is probably the most important of all of them, because creating that community or that team of people or that will help you hold accountable. But what's actually happening is, yes, they're encouraging you, but what happens too that you don't realize is that you're encouraging them. And your success or your consistent application of whatever you're doing is actually going to positively affect them as well as you. So it is a full circle of support.
I absolutely agree. And so important. And in this day and age, we spend so much time alone, whether we're in our offices, we're doing lots of Zoom calls. That type of connection, that type of support is so important and so useful. Always has been, but I think in this day and age, it is so important that we seek that out. And I guess the last thing I would just say when it comes to that preparation is to establish those routines and habits. And again, that's kind of where that calendar management comes in. What is the routine? I get up in the morning, I start my workout at 7:30, most mornings. The mornings that I know I have something before 10 a.m., then I move my workout to a different time of the day. So those are things that, one, self-care, absolutely, because you're getting in your workout or your relaxation time, whatever it may be. And then easily after a while, those, routines become habit and things.
And they become a non-negotiable because it is what you need.
They do. And the beautiful thing, when you have these routines established, these habits established, there's no decision fatigue anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is number one when it comes to self-care. I don't have to be making decisions every minute of every day because I've already planned, I've already prioritized, and I'm prepared for what I'm doing. Life is good.
Thank you, Denise. Plan, prioritize, prepare.
For self-care.
Well, hello everyone and welcome. And I'm here with Denise Stegall, our longevity specialist, and we're talking about the importance of self-care and reaching your personal goals. We've talked about setting and achieving your goals, and now we're going to take a deeper dive into the importance of connection and the value of your community and hitting those personal goals. So let's talk about community, because I am a pretty independent person. And I didn't realize how important that community piece was until I started CrossFit in what I call the old person class. And they actually call it the Legends class. It's super cool because the age ranges go between 60 and 94. And if you watch a 94-year-old doing burpees, can I tell you how motivating that is? And when you're in an environment that maybe it's brand new and you don't know what you're doing, having people around that welcome you is everything. So I think this has to be one of the most important pieces of this personal goal piece for me.
I agree. Community and community is different from everyone. A community could be, your group of friends. It could be, like you're saying, the group at CrossFit. It could be your church or synagogue. It could be your pickleball team, or your close-knit family and friends. What you consider community may be a little different, but I think it really is important that we have this group of people who you have their support, you have their not just their support, but their love, and their important, like they know how important being in your life is to them, and it's equally as important that they're in your life. So like they know that you're each other's BFF, so to speak, in your community. Because without it, we lack a sense of belonging and a sense of security. So if you don't have that, like how do you grow, personally, if you don't feel like you belong anywhere, or if you feel insecure? There is no sense of personal growth. You can do a lot of reading and a lot of things like that, but when I think of personal growth, that's a part of it. But personal growth also means, how do you connect with others? How do you connect with the world? And what is your place amongst all of the people in the world? Because we all do have a place. And I think community helps us understand that.
And we're so much more separated from each other now than we used to be.
Yeah, we really are, and I know we pick on social media a lot, and the challenge that I see with social media is we look and we say, oh, look, we have 495,000 friends, but who do you really know? Who, do you know do you know if they're married or not? Do they have children? Do you know what their kids do? Do you know what they do other than, what it says on their Facebook feed? So when it comes to connection, sometimes it can start online, but I think it's so important for us to take it off and actually meet people, because that's really a community. Unless you're talking to somebody all the time on Facebook or and talking like, like we are here, where you can see each other, it's not really a community. Because when you're facing a challenge or a setback, how does your Facebook group, how does that help you? Or the people that, are friends with you on Facebook, are they giving you guidance? Are they giving you the support you need?
Mhm.
That's what a community does. And by doing so, they boost your confidence, they increase your resilience, and actually give you a greater sense of personal fulfillment that
Mhm.
helps you to grow personally. So without that fulfillment, it's kind of void. And so what's the point, right? So having a community of people can help you grow and really increase that sense of fulfillment and purpose.
Especially when you, for some reason, you don't show up, maybe once or twice, and then they're saying, gee, where were you? We missed you. And when somebody says, oh, we missed you, how does that make you feel? It makes you feel really good inside. It makes you feel like you're valued and you belong there. And
Yes,
that is really important.
absolutely. I mean, we want to feel wanted.
Mhm.
We're it's funny, we really are a tribal species. We've gotten so far away from that. But when you look at, how did we start? We started in tribes and, groups of people or troops of people. In this day and age, we call it family. But with all of the globalization, people move. My extended family is in England. I have cousins that if I tripped over them, I wouldn't know who they were. So when it comes to, community, sometimes we need to create that community of people who, yeah, care. And have, yes, you feel great when somebody says, oh, we miss you. But at the same time, there's a little bit of guilt there because you're like, oh, I let somebody down. I don't want to let somebody down because I don't want somebody to let me down. So there's all of a sudden there's this new feeling. I don't want to call it responsibility, but it's part of a connection when you're connecting with people.
And it can
And
help you stay on track for your own personal goals.
oh,
Because it
absolutely,
is easy
absolutely.
if you are all by yourself, and it is easy to not, oh, I'm just going to do part of this, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm speaking for myself, I don't know. Oh, it'll be a fine, these damn exercises for this hip, yeah. There are some days I'm like, and then I go to the PT person and I go, well, I don't think I did that one enough.
Mhm.
I guess it was supposed to be important, but that's just because it's me here in my office or by myself. So having somebody else to hold you accountable or remind you why it's important, maybe
Yeah,
that's even more than hold you accountable.
absolutely. And it's those shared experiences too, because maybe that, that the person, whether it's your physical therapist, maybe they've been through it, right?
Mhm.
And they know that, they've gone through it. And if you do this, um, you're going to do so much better than if you don't. And they know it by, through experience. It's the experience that these connections really can help, how they can help us grow is, when we hear something from someone, and when you're young, I understand this. When people are young, like they don't want to, they want to figure it all out themselves. But when you get to a certain age and you realize that you can learn from other people's experiences, other people's mistakes, and other people's successes, easier is it to move forward and actually reach your goals because you've heard about the pitfalls. So you learn how to avoid those because the community is saying, okay, we tried this, don't do that.
Mhm.
Oh, don't eat the, back in the day, oh, don't eat those berries from that bush, those will kill you. Okay, I won't eat those, right? And community is funny. It could, it's usually people with similar interests. It doesn't necessarily mean backgrounds. A lot of communities, we have people from all over, but sometimes it includes people with similar backgrounds, but definitely people that have similar goals, experiences, and values.
And common
And common
interest for that particular thing.
Mhm.
A book club,
Absolutely.
you're all there because you want to read.
Right. Exactly. I think an important piece too with community, as people are sharing and they're sharing their experiences, when it's our turn to share, whether it's, I have knowledge to share with you or I need support, you feel validated and seen or heard, because somebody is actually really listening. They're there to help you. They're there to listen. They're there to respond and to help you through. So the one thing a lot of women say when I'm working with them is like, I just don't feel heard
Mm.
or I don't feel seen. I go to the doctor and they tell me XYZ, but they're not listening to me. And I understand that. But when they're in my community, whether they're working with me directly or, within my group program, they feel heard because I give them that opportunity. They get the opportunity to speak and to share. And I think that's what helps to strengthen those bonds and gives people that sense of belonging and acceptance. This helps them grow personally. So actually, then they can grow professionally as well.
I like that. And that being heard is important, or being able to offer your input. And not from an ego standpoint, like you have to be the one that says something all the time, because there's the ego piece, but then there's the offering your, and not advice, but offering your input to a particular situation. You never know how that's going to affect somebody else in the group positively. It's what can you offer to lift everybody up, because it also gives you an opportunity to accept what they're saying more personally too.
Right. And how many times when you're talking to somebody about something, does it feel like it becomes like a brainstorming session and you come up with this new solution that, on your own, maybe you would have come to the conclusion at some point, but together during a brainstorming session or, a conversation with people, you come up with a solution so much easier. And whether it's the other people or person, that said that kind of gave you the aha moment, 9 out of 10 times what I find during these conversations is if I'm looking for support, I end up coming up with my own aha, but the other people kind of pulled it out of me. And that's exactly what coaching does, is we pull it out of a person. And so as a coach, I work with a coach because, we all need to have that community. So I have a community of people, but I'm in a community too. You and I are in a community together, and you don't have to just be in one community. I think that's another thing to be aware of is, you can be in different communities and still feel a part of each one equally.
There was a time years ago that your neighborhood, we never had to define this community thing. We were just having, you having tea with a neighbor, or we were more social as a society. And there are people that are fortunate enough to live in areas that still have that piece of social ability that just is natural, that doesn't need a definition. But in a paced life, especially if you're really pushing for some professional goals, your personal stuff is going to be put to the sideline more times than not. And realizing, I think what you're bringing about in this segment is so important to remind people that in order to be successful, you said this already, but in order to be successful in your professional side, you have to take care of your personal goals and your personal well-being first.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
I think you did. Thank you, Denise, as always. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time. Hey, Denise.
Hey, Jean.
How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. It is a very lovely day. We've got spring has finally sprung out here. I'm staring at these beautiful blooming trees.
Fantastic.
So, and I've got my
that
very springy top
you look
on.
very springy.
So I'm feeling springy.
Fantastic. So Denise is our I always stumble over this, so I don't know why. Denise is our longevity specialist, as I say it more slowly. And we're going to talk about what that really means and the importance of why do we need a longevity specialist, and how does that really apply to our lives, and why is that so important?
It's really important because what I have found in my years of coaching and working with mostly women and a few smart men is that when they come to me, there's this short term, this is the goal. This is the goal that I want to reach. And they reach the goal, and then what? That's the problem that I am really filling or fixing, or I guess fixing. The problem that I'm addressing as the longevity specialist is, it's these little pieces, these little goals are great, but we have to know what is our long-term goal. Long-term longevity, means it's a long life. Everyone says, oh, life is short. No, it's not. Life is long, but if you make bad decisions, it is not fun for a long time. And the question always is, yes, we are living longer, but are we living better longer? And I would say for too many people, the answer is no, they're not. They may be living into their 90s, into their hundreds, but for the last 20, 30 years of their life, they've got all sorts of diseases and bone problems, and just the quality of life is gone. And so for me, I want people to live longer, better, longer, but I want people obviously to feel good today. We have to start today in order to get down the road. So it really is about making those lifelong habit changes, and not thinking of it as that, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds. When you hit 20 pounds, then what? No, then we keep growing. We keep, adding to those habits. And that's my biggest challenge with most diet programs is, and I've done this myself, it's a 6-week program. Well, in 6 weeks, yes, you can change some habits, but then what? There has to be something consistent. And, with, the epidemic of obesity and metabolic syndrome and cardiovascular disease, women are actually getting sicker younger. I mean, there are women in their 40s who are being diagnosed with diseases that women back in the day didn't get diagnosed with, I guess, until they were into their later 60s. So this is definitely a problem when it comes to these epidemics that we have. And so my goal, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, one of the things that I noticed is, I go through these periods of, and it's probably seasonally related, right? The weather's good, you're really active. The winter comes, you're not so active. It's cold, it's rainy. There's tons of excuses not to do anything outside or wherever your activity happens to be. And then spring comes and you're reconditioning and you're rebuilding again. And I can't tell you how many times I've attempted to rebuild so that I can be ready to go hike or mountain bike or whatever the activity is. And then when I came into this hip issue, and you realize that you are of a certain age that things like this do need to be replaced. So I go, how the hell did that happen, first of all? But that's a whole nother conversation. But it hit me square in the face because I knew this. But what I really wasn't taking internally was what I do today or right now is going to affect how I'm going to be in the next 20 years. And I can't afford to recondition any longer. Now I have to be committed to how I want to be able to move when I'm 20 or 30 years from now. And what does that, and then that comes into what you're talking about as a longevity specialist, because it is a commitment to myself that I have to create a solid foundation of strength in order to be mobile enough to do what I think I want to be able to do then.
Absolutely. And it actually, it also includes, if it's, you have to make the decision for yourself, and working with somebody is important, but truly what it starts with is, we say self-care, but this is actually the mindset, self-care mindset, where self-care kind of like flows into that next thing. And it's that mindset. We have been so conditioned through the years, with negative thoughts, negative mindset. You can't do this, or, oh, it's not such a big deal. I'll do it later. And at some point, you do wake up and realize that later is now. It's all
Oh,
of a
yeah.
sudden later.
Hello.
So it
I
really
am
has to
not
start.
40 anymore. What the heck?
I just celebrated the 18th anniversary of my 35th birthday.
Congratulations.
So again, I'm like, still think I'm 35. I'm
Right.
not. And like you said, things change. I've been really fortunate to, Mark and I are, we love to exercise, we love to be outside, but I agree, sometimes in the wintertime, it can get hard. So
Mhm.
what did we do? I have a treadmill, I have an elliptical, I have a bike in my house. Now I know that's excessive for most people. One would suffice. And for the reason is, one, it's mental. When you exercise, you get let off endorphins, you
Mhm.
get rid of excess energy and stress. And so that, to me, that's one of the more important reasons to continue to stay active through the year, you
Mhm.
know, crappy weather and all. Um, I remember when I used to work years and years ago, a while ago, I used to work at a restaurant that was in a mall. And I remember getting, at the restaurant, we'd open at whatever, 11 for lunch. I'd be there at 7 in the morning. People walking around the mall. And I'm like, the heck are these people walking around the freaking mall for? Mall walkers. Well, then I remember when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was usually when the weather was crappy. It was rainy
Mhm.
or snowy and cold. These were the smart people who were actually getting out and going back in and moving. So movement is such a big part of longevity. Mindset is such a big part of longevity. And we are also, we can be so goal oriented that we
Mhm.
reach a goal and check. But it's, I'll reach this goal, and they're all over the place. There's no continuity and there's no plan. You can have different goals. I could have a weight loss goal, or I could have how many, I want to learn how to speak. Well, right now I'm learning how to speak French again. I spoke French in high school, but apparently not enough. So I have these different goals, but they're in alignment with what I want to do and who I am, who I want to be in the future. I know I'm going to be in Paris in September, but it's not the only time I'm ever going to be in Paris in my life, I hope. So these are things that, consistently, for the long term, these are goals that actually will continue. There's a reason that I'm doing them. And the reason is, I want to live a long life. I want to live healthy, and I want to enjoy the things that I'm doing. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's the longevity piece.
And that's okay. Talking with your hands is fine. So one thing that I had to come to terms with is that what motivates you doesn't motivate me.
Mhm.
And but then figuring out, okay, so I've identified what doesn't work, which is easy to do because those become excuses and reasons and excuses of or obstacles of why you're not going to do something. But then I had to figure out what was going to work, because I cannot sit inside on an elliptical. It makes me really cranky. I
Mhm.
dread every second of it. So, well, what am I going to do? I have to go outside. So if I'm going to go outside, I have to, what I did was identified, well, if it's this temperature, here are the clothes that I'm going to wear. And if it's this temperature, here's what I'm going to wear. So now I don't have to say, gee, I wonder what I don't have, or it's too
Mhm.
much work to go outside because I'm going to be cold. Well, no, 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 no. I've already decided if this is the activity and this is the temperature, this is what I'm going to, it takes away those obstacles. And so
Mhm.
now I just have to get them on. And then I have
Right.
to get
Okay.
my ass outside.
So
So,
this is funny. This is funny. So what you just said to me goes back to a conversation we had a little bit ago about that planning and prioritizing
and
and
the three
preparing.
P's.
See how it all goes together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. When you're right, what motivates one person doesn't motivate somebody else. And yes, a lot of that is internal, trying to figure it out, what it is. And that's honestly, sometimes people don't figure it out on their own or have trouble figuring it out on their own. And that's really where I can come in and help people to kind of figure, sometimes it's just asking the question like you asked yourself. What is it that I want to do? What do I enjoy? What do I hate? That's probably something even more important. What do I hate?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I have a shoulder issue. I know I can't lift anything over my head that's more than 10 pounds. And even that is pushing it right now. So that changes some of the things I'm going to do. I'm not going to go out now and, try to do something crazy where I'm doing a lot of stuff over my head. I can't. So that changes what I want to do and how I can do things. And yes, and
But
it
it's only
changes
one
as we
body
go.
part. It doesn't mean you can't do anything.
Exactly. It's one body part. I can't do regular push-ups right now, but I can do planks on my elbows.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely, and we're talking exercise, this applies to, how you're eating, how you're sleeping, how you're connecting with others and community. Again, long term, all of these pieces are so important. So one of the concepts that I follow is lifestyle medicine. Now they focus a lot, their focus when it comes to food is plant focused or plant based. I I like the phrase plant-based, it's mostly plants and then, you have everything else, because I don't believe in taking food groups out of your diet unless it's necessary. But
Mm-hmm.
the other pieces are so important. And I've mentioned them. It's the sleep, it's the movement, it's connecting, it's finding a sense of purpose. What do you like to do? We ask each other all the time when we go to networking events. So what do you do? Maybe a better question is tell me about you. Who are you? What do you enjoy? Because that changes the question, but it changes our mindset. Well, who are we? Who am
Mm-hmm.
I? What's important to me? What's important to me today? And what's important to me down the road? So, what changes do I need to make or enhancements do I need to make? Maybe that's a better phrase. We don't need to completely change our whole, we don't need to change who we are to in our core. We're always going to be this person. But habits we can certainly change.
Mm-hmm.
Habits can come and go, right? So it's again, who are you? What's important to you? What's the long-term goal? Like, how do we want to be? How do we want to feel? And this is a medical thing. How do you feel, function, and survive? And I think that's important because the only one, that's really measurable is whether you're surviving or not. You're either dead or alive, right? But how you feel, it's how you feel. Nobody can tell you how you feel. How is your body functioning? Do you have range of motion? Can you get up and down from the floor? If you have grandkids, can you crawl around the floor with them? A lot of people, even in their 40s, cannot.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't do that in their 40s, what are they going to be like? What are they going to be able to do in their 60s? Right. And I'll add this last piece only because this just reminded me of a conversation that I had with my niece when she was 13. She doesn't remember her one grandfather ever walking because when she was very, very young, maybe she was 2, he used one of those scooters and he was in his 60s, but he was an obese man. He had diabetes, he had cardiovascular disease, and he kind of just gave up because it was too hard at that point. His
Mm-hmm.
joints hurt. He didn't have the energy. And so when a 13-year-old girl says, I'm going to not live like that.
Mm.
She's already thinking longevity because the grandfather was not. And so I hope to, to talk to people of, of my generation, younger generation, because we need people to start thinking about, their long-term, life down the road. I mean, it's kind of like your finances. When you think about it, if you start saving when you're 20, you got a lot more money than if you start saving when you're 50. So I can't think of myself now that I've just said that. I think of myself, as a longevity specialist, in the same way as, saving money and for the future. You start saving young, you have a lot more money. You start taking care of yourself and having a plan for your lifestyle, you have longevity for your health and wellness in the future.
Thank you, Denise. Really
Thanks, Tina.
appreciate it. And I think it is an important conversation for people to hear over and over again, because that reminder of what we want and what we need and what we expect and what are we willing to do for it.
Bingo.